We've been on a long journey together, and ultimately, I think we've accomplished a lot of amazing things. For those of you who were here in 2017, which was my first Connections, and I don't think there were very many of you because we weren't known as someone working with marketing, we announced the Market Activation Program. And you heard a lot in the main general session about our partnership with our customers. And that has grown over the last 4 or 5 years immensely, right? So you saw the numbers, 450 plus service provider teams who are using the assets, over 4,000 assets to date. We heard from all of you, and we created the electronic content builder and the video editor. And our goal really is to do what we can do to help you be most successful, because it's probably not a secret at this point, but we think your mission is actually the most important mission for the future of our community, right? Look, we've spent a couple of decades working with engineering teams on how to build a great network. We've been working with Verizon for the last 5 years, sole source. Last I checked, they know how to build a network. We're getting pretty close with your operations team. That's something we've known. But, the function of marketing, in our view, is one that has to come to the fore, because our industry, which has traditionally been a technology industry, really didn't grow up as a consumer go-to-market kind of industry. So it's a huge investment for us, and we want feedback from all of you as to how we can help you become better marketers and what we can bring to the table. And that's really why this topic leads the agenda, the power of storytelling. One of the things that we've gotten a lot of good feedback on is, hey, you guys are doing a pretty good job of creating stories from our success. The whole Jerry D video concept, that's just storytelling, right? You talk to Jerry and say, hey, when you think about this, he's just like, look, I'm just trying to tell funny stories that are engaging and memorable. And we think that that's actually where all of us as a community can really up our game, because we have so many amazing stories of the way we're impacting our subscribers' lives. How do we turn that into really thought-provoking marketing content? And that's why we put it first on the agenda. And we actually think it's really fundamental to communication and marketing. And there's a reason why. If you go back through the entire 100,000 plus history of our evolution, communicating other than stories is a relatively new phenomenon. Right? And you talk to experts and they'll say, for 98% of human history, the main way that we communicated to each other was through stories. Sitting around a campfire, talking about what happened in the day, sharing the lessons from what happened with your ancestors. And it really is very, very recent in our history as a species that more formal forms of communication have even existed, right? So the first written language, 4000 BC. The first printing press and mass printing, the Gutenberg Bible, a few hundred years ago. And the thing that people forget about it is, for the next 100 years, 98% of human civilization was illiterate. So when you think about the way we communicate today with charts and white papers and all of that, that is literally a blip in our history, how we've evolved. And that's really important. Why? And by the way, I'm sure you didn't expect that you're going to see an MRI here today, but hang with me. This picture of the brain actually shows the centers of your brain that are engaged when you hear a story. Why is this important? Because when you share facts and data and information, this doesn't happen. Who here remembers all the facts and data and information you learned in high school? I sure don't. but I do remember some of the most interesting stories that my best professors in college and my teachers in high school shared with me. And what's happening here is as the story's being heard, you're actually lighting up centers that deal with sight and smell and touch and feel. And what's happening is the person who's hearing the story, they're actually living in the story. And actually, that's why they're so memorable. I remember when the chief marketing officer of IBM told a story. And his chart was just a picture of Disney World with Mickey Mouse and a happy family smiling. And by the way, I'm on the side here because that light is bright in the middle, sorry. He's telling this story, and I'm looking at the screen, and I'm like, this is IBM. Where the heck is this guy going, right? And he recounted a story about how when he was at Disney World, they had a problem, and the Disney Corporation basically, filled the skies, darkened the skies with people to come help. And his point was how important customer support was because, in fact, when you look at surveys of customer satisfaction, customers are actually more satisfied when there's a problem and you resolve it than when they have a perfect experience. Hard to believe, but study after study has shown that. And what's amazing is I still remember it. I can see the chart. I can remember the story. He talked about his family. He didn't put up a chart and say, here's the statistics and studies and all of that. He told a story. He paired it up with unbelievably evocative imagery, and I remember it to this day. That's why storytelling is so important. And I like to think of what you can accomplish with great stories. I like to think of some of the best storytellers that I remember and who've impressed me. And I start with Winston Churchill. So those of you who aren't that familiar with the history of World War II, when he became prime minister, it was basically at the point where Western civilization was ending. Right? Everyone else went and said, we all think you're kind of a crackpot, so good luck, right? And pretty much everyone in the British society had decided that they were going to capitulate, right? And what did Winston do? Winston actually took to the airwaves, and he gave some of the most famous speeches in the history of the world. Right? You're probably familiar with this quote, "We shall go on to the end, whatever the cost may be." And what's really interesting is this was his call to action, right? And he told all kinds of, used all kinds of evocative imagery. Actually, he was so effective that someone once said that he actually weaponized the English language, which is really, really unbelievable. And right at the time that he came to power and everyone was saying, we have to make peace with the Germans, this was when Dunkirk was happening. And he told in an amazing, evocative way what was happening in the evacuation of Dunkirk and the role that everyone played, right? Really phenomenal story. He almost made it sound like it was a victory, right? They evacuated, and he did make the comment, wars aren't won with an evacuation. But then, to really punctuate the story, he talked about a story that pretty much everyone in the British society would have heard at that time. He talked about King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table, and he compared what the British soldiers were doing with these heroic knights that everyone, when they were 4 years old, they heard the stories, etc. And he made it vivid, and he made it real. And in my opinion, literally saved Western civilization. If you study it, literally everyone was like, you're crazy, we're giving up. And he rallied the entire country, and eventually the rest of the democracies, to actually accomplish something great. And that's the power of stories. Right? Now, you may be saying, okay, I'm not looking to save the world, right? But you can look at other areas where we've seen a similar impact. Maya Angelou, right? She eventually became our national poet laureate. She's on our currency, but for most of her life, she lived in extreme oppression. And she wanted to move people to change and change our society. And again, she did it through the power of story. Everyone's familiar with, the famous story about, I know why the cage bird, why the cage bird cries, right? It's a well-known book. We all read it in high school. She's got a lot of great poems and all of that. But of course, this story is about her and the oppression that she felt. And she created a phenomenon and had a major impact on our society. So that's also a pretty big thing, right? Changing the society. But it also plays in more modern ways. Jimmy Donaldson, AKA Mr. Beast. So he is one of the most famous influencers on social media today. And he has a very unique methodology for the way that he tells stories. When he puts videos up, he gets hundreds of millions of engagements. It's unbelievable. And it's so fundamental that he's changed the way that influencers today are actually creating content for social media. But in the end, he's also raising a significant amount of money to help address issues like hunger, right? And again, fundamentally what he's doing is telling stories. He's not going out and making arguments about unemployment, and he's not making economic arguments about trickle-down economics. Literally, he is telling stories, and he may be the most powerful influencer on social media, maybe other than Kim Kardashian. That was a joke, by the way. Let's put it a little bit more in business context. So you guys have all probably heard of Harry's Razor. And like you, they aren't the industry giants. They're not Gillette. That's not how they grew up. What's interesting is when they started, the two founders basically talked about how they were in college and they couldn't afford to continually have a good shave. In fact, one of them talks about how their girlfriend basically wanted to leave them because, she was tired of him looking like a bum, and by the way, it wasn't probably that much fun to kiss him. So they went out and decided to do something about it. And they created a company that has grown like wildfire. It is now actually the #1 razor brand in the country, ahead of the Gillette Venus. But what's really interesting is if you look at the way they created this phenomenon, the whole thing was built around this, mythical founder story of I can't afford to have a good shave, and it was incredibly personal, and people could relate to it, right? So many of us have had that situation. We're in college or right out of college, and I don't want to pay $6 for a Gillette Fusion. So this model even works in things that are kind of commodities, like a razor. But it's memorable because if you see one of their ads, you remember it because basically they tell that story. And so we think the opportunity for all of us is to do that, is to bring ourselves, bring our teams, bring our subscribers into stories that are memorable, to talk less about what our service is, but more about what it can do to change the lives of our subscribers and our members. And, some of this is branding it's a little bit of a mystery, right? You can read lots of books. It can be a bit confusing. We think there's actually a relatively simple formula for how all of you can transform your organizations, that you can bring back and say, look, I actually think, maybe you're doing all this great, but there's probably some things we could do as marketing leaders to actually transform the way that our subscribers and our potential subscribers fundamentally think about who we are and what we do. The first one is on commit, right? So the first thing on commitment is, you guys were in the main session, you heard a lot about the managed services, right? And we've got some leaders of broadband organizations who are committed to putting that to work. We have many, they need help. And what we're finding is that this community, you're the leaders who are bringing the voice of the subscriber back to your teams, back to your general managers, and helping them understand what the opportunity is with new managed services. But there's another dimension of this, and you saw this with Caitlin. Someone has to align the organization to make sure that everyone is actually living the brand promise. When they talk to one of your support reps, they're behaving in a way that's informative, that's helpful, they understand what you're trying to do with the subscriber, and they're not just thinking, okay, it's been 32 seconds, I need to get them off the phone because that's going to kill my call metrics. I'll talk a little bit about this tomorrow on main stage. That alignment is critical. Is the field tech thinking, I got to get on, you know, I'm only allowed 45 minutes or an hour in a home, or are they thinking, wow, this is a chance to see, oh, it looks like they have kids. Let's talk to them about Experience IQ. Let's talk about how we care and what our offerings are. Oh, you know what? You probably should be thinking about how you can use Command IQ to do that, and so many more things. But it's really up to the marketing team to think through how we can get everyone engaging in that way. So it starts with helping the organization commit to bring new services, not just build a network, but also align everyone in the organization to live the brand promise that's core to who you are, your mission statement, and your brand. The second one is about communicate. It's a concept I've shared before, right? So if you talk to your subscribers, and you say, who are you? How do you think about yourself? I think one of the last things they'll say is, well, yeah, I'm a 100 megger. I identify as a gigger, right? Well, you know, I have a job and I have kids, but when I think about myself, I'm a fiber subscriber. That's it, right? So this has become really clear in the pandemic, right? People have become fundamentally engaged with your service. And if they identify as anything, I'm a gamer, right? And what I really want is a service that's so powerful and so reliable that I can win the game. No latency. I work from home. I'm a breadwinner for my family. And I'd love it if my Zoom meeting with my boss didn't go down when my kids come home from school and start streaming. I'm a head of household. I'm worried about the security of my family. That's a big part of who I am, making sure they're safe and secure. Boy, that Arlo secure service sounds great. Or I'm a small business trying to recover after the pandemic. More and more people are coming to work in my establishment, and I want to have a robust network and a great mobile app experience, right? I think that's probably how your subscribers are actually identifying. And the good news is you all have opportunities to share not, hey, we've got a gig package, but actually share, hey, here's a subscriber who's having a great experience, and here's how we're helping gamers or people who are working from home or heads of household. And some of you are doing it, but I think actually there's a chance today to do even more of it. Because if you send someone a marketing campaign and you're talking about how you're going to fundamentally change their life in a way that's relevant to them, they can see your service changing their life. And those stories are the gold that will catch their attention, just like the Jerry D videos, right? They're all stories, they're engaging, they're funny, they're memorable, but all of us can talk about how we're changing the lives of our subscribers through great stories. The third one is codify. So we all have brand systems, right? We got logos, we got taglines, we got messaging. And I'm continually really moved when I visit with our customers and I hear about their mission statements, right? You saw Bob Hance, right? If you go to their headquarters, it literally says, our mission is to bring service where no one else will bring it, right? And many of you have missions like that. And I'd ask the question is that what you're putting in front of your subscribers and your targets when you build your brands? Is it, we're the fiber provider? we're a multi-gig provider? Or are you actually talking about your mission to change the life of the people that you want to serve, right? I put these up because I think they're all great examples, right? Disneyland doesn't say, we have more rides than everyone else. We have 4,257 foot of roller coasters for you to ride. We have the tallest water slide in the industry, right? We're the biggest, we're the fastest. No, they talk about, come here, it's the happiest place on earth. Who wouldn't want that? I wish my children wanted a little less. Yes, I walked 27,000 steps 4 straight days in 95-degree heat about 4 months ago. It was awesome. And the best part is I was spending a lot of money to do it. But my kids are pretty much convinced that if they show up there, it's the happiest place on earth. Not because they have the tallest roller coaster or the fastest rides or any of that, right? And that's what great brands do. And I think there's an opportunity for all of us to continually reevaluate that. And, you know, look, confession time. When I first joined Calix, I sat down with Carl and Michael, and we talked about, like, you know, what's our mission statement, our brand identity going to be? And, you know, it was, you know, our mission is to help you connect everyone and everything. So the whole idea is, whether it was Revenue Edge or Intelligent Access Edge, we're going to create a framework that allows you to decide what service you want to provide, and you can do it, right? It's the platform that Michael was talking about. But that was still a connectivity thought, right? It was still about, hey, we're going to give you the base technologies that are going to enable you to go build the networks you want, go into the premises. About a year ago, we stepped back and said, well, shouldn't we be talking about the vision that we have for our customers, right? And that's when we came up with the new mission statement and the new brand identity. And you see the 3 simple words: simplify, period, excite, period, and grow, period, right? Simplify, excite, and grow. Because that's our ambition for all of you, that we can help you simplify your operations, whether that's core operations or marketing or supply chain, so that you can be radically more efficient and effective. Excite. We want to bring services to you that will actually excite your subscribers, right? So they want to be your subscribers and they want more from you. And then grow. And if you read the full thing, it says grow your value. And we debated that a lot, right? Michael, Carl, and I, like, literally we spent hours and hours on those 3 words. And the reason we chose grow your value is it's not grow your profit, grow your revenue, grow your employee base. It's all about, you have all sorts of ways that you provide value. Bob Hance is a great example, right? Helping to transform the village of Cassopolis. Others, like Brad, he's a little bit more profit-oriented, right? So he wants to grow that way. Now, he still obviously cares very much about the community, but he's got a very big profit incentive. So the whole idea there is, if we help you simplify, we help you excite, we can help you grow your value to your communities, your subscribers, your employees, your shareholders. And for us, that was actually a big transformation in terms of how we want to be identified. Now, I know all of you could probably have recited those 3 words before you came in the room, right? Yeah, I know, right? There's a lot of work to do for us to get our identities out there. But the most effective way to do it is through stories. And so our recommendation is, think about it in simple terms, right? We're going to commit to provide the service and align the organization the way Caitlin did. We're going to communicate through stories in ways that are actually relevant to the way people live their lives and how we can help them. And then we're going to sit back and codify and say, what are we really about, right? Well, you're not about laying fiber, you're about changing the lives of your subscribers. So obviously there's a lot of work that you can do here, and the slides are not advancing. There we go. So I'll just give you a quick example. So you all saw Gary from Paul Bunyan, right? And I'm going to share more about this throughout the conference. So they went all fiber 2004, long time ago. He launched the GigaZone as a branding capability and focus in 2015. And as part of it, they launched this big gamer conference. They're going to have thousands of people this year, right? And if you look at one of their recent ads, it certainly talks about, hey, we're bigger, we're better, we're faster, we're 10x. Now, they've been working themselves and with partnership with us to think about how they're going to transform this moving forward, right? And if you look at their current ad strategy and their marketing strategy, you can see something interesting. They're not talking about being 10x faster. They're talking about how we can make the gaming experience better and help you win the game. But there's also an interesting one. Gary will tell you, look, we have a technology advantage. We have a speed advantage. And we're not going to stop talking about that. But you know what? In 3 to 5 years, we may not anymore. So they're in the process of launching this other very brand forward campaign that talks about how they're investing in their community and how they're helping create things like 218 Relocate, which is the program he talked about that they won the award for in PC Magazine. That's a lot of work, and that's a lot of effort. And they care about the experience. The other thing that I love about these two ads here on the left is they have people in them. I love ads with Gigaspires in them. Trust me, I love the Gigaspire. So keep doing it. But what they're trying to do is recognize that in 3 to 5 years, we won't have a technology advantage anymore. When someone else has come and rolled XGS PON and 10 gig. But this is unique. No one can have this. No one's been in the community as long as they have. No one's done the investment in the community and the members that they have. No one's focused on their experience the way they have. So Gary's like, yeah, we're gonna keep going on speed, as Michael said. It's a start. It's actually been a long start for Paul Bunyan. But eventually, you know, this is one of the things I love about Gary. He's thinking 3 to 5 years, I can't be known for that anymore. And I think we all have that opportunity. And, you know, look, some of our best storytellers, they're right here in the audience in the community. And they're doing amazing things. Last year, we announced the Marketing Hall of Fame, right? And these were for people who are on the marketing board. They've invested a tremendous amount of time, and in particular helped us launch the Broadband Marketing Academy. And we've had hundreds and hundreds of people in the community who've taken those courses. So I guess it wouldn't be a connection session without an announcement, so I'll make an announcement. We have a newest member of our Marketing Hall of Fame, Melissa Leese. You heard me talk about MHTC, Mount Horeb. They won the award, and they've achieved some unbelievably amazing statistics on response rates and revenue growth. They've moved their organization to become more of a managed service company, and I talked about that. But what I really love about this is they're doing it, and they're making more money, and they're growing their Net Promoter Score. So congratulations, Melissa. A round of applause. And I have to say, I have been thrilled by nothing the way I've been thrilled with how this community has grown over the last 5 years. So please come to us and say, hey, this is really how we could use help. Because like I said, your function is going to be the biggest determinant of the success of your organizations in this industry. Our customers been doing operations for years, invested a lot in engineering, really financially savvy, but we have to become the best marketers in the industry so we can actually help the subscriber understand how we're different and how we can help them.